Hello, everyone. Welcome into the little program called Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, my dear friend who attempts to make our lives simple for us and happy. Gary C. Johnson with us today.
And today, my friend, we are going to talk about truth.
Oh, this is not about my weight, is it? I mean...
Oh, no.
Okay.
And this is one, after thinking through it, really I try to get my friends to think, and having forced myself to think this past week, I wish this is one time I wish I could actually talk back and forth to my friends about this, because it's pretty complicated in my mind what I'm going to be talking about.
Well, I'll do my best to represent our friends in trying to ask the questions to understand, because you've already intrigued me.
I was looking at a psychological test the other day. That's what got me off on this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions in the test to determine if a person is being honest is, I do not always tell the truth, true or false. If you answered true, then you were lying.
Okay, you lost me on that one. I do not always tell the truth, true or false. And if you answered true, saying that sometimes I fib, then you're not correct?
No. What I'm saying is, no, I'm sorry. If you answered false, in other words, if you said you always tell the truth, you were lying.
Okay. So anyone that says, yes, I always do my best, I tell the truth.
Not always my best, I always tell the truth.
I always tell the truth.
Under that, on that test, you were lying. Now, how many of you, my friends, would have missed that question? How many of you, have you been asked a question, true or false, do you always tell the truth, would have said, yes, I always tell the truth?
See, I would have probably answered, I tell the truth to the best of my ability. But you can't do that, right? It's got to be yes or no.
Right. On that question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what the test knows is that you can't always tell the truth in this literal sense and be in society. And because, let's give you an example. Someone comes in that's just spent hours fixing their hair, and you look at it and you say to yourself, God, that looks terrible. And the person says to you, how does my hair look? And you look at them and you say, oh, what do you say?
Beautiful. It looks great. That is fantastic, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But yet you have literally not told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what I think they're talking about. But in the same sense, when I talked about unsolicited advice the other day,
right,
I said to myself, when Keith and I were talking about that, I was actually on the program maybe inviting my friends to not necessarily be honest. When someone comes around and asks and got their car there and says, this is my beautiful car that I just bought.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You know, as you're talking, you're making me think of you remember the little movie with Jim Carrey, Liar, Liar, when his son wished that for 24 hours his dad could not lie? So for 24 hours, he had to tell the absolute truth, and there was a secretary in that movie that had their hair done. And he walked in, and she said, what do you think? And he goes, it's horrible. So, yes, the truth, in a lot of ways, did not serve him well in that movie.
So I guess the thing I'm wanting to talk to my friends about is how complicated life is as we live it.
Right.
and how thin the line is that we have to walk. Now, one should never deliberately tell an untruth that would harm someone, that would actually distort a fact that would cause harm. But in everyday life, in living in polite society, I guess we have to do it every day, whether we like it or not. Right, friends? I guess you don't do it, right, folks?
I'm telling you, my friend, that's going to be difficult to do. It's going to be difficult to do.
No, it's not. As long as you don't do it to harm someone, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it to harm anyone.
Right.
But you will do it to be nice. Simply because that's just the way life is.
You know, on that unsolicited advice, obviously my wife is listening to this program because she and my son were going to have something done to the vehicle. So she was going to meet my son after work. They were going to switch out all the stuff. He was going to leave his vehicle. She's going to take it. He's going to take her vehicle. Very complicated. And I said, wouldn't it just be easier for you guys to switch vehicles and let him go do it and you do this? It'd save you a lot of time and trouble. She said, I'll be meeting our son after work. We'll be switching. In other words, she told me real quick, we're going to do it the way we want to do it. So here I'd given this unsolicited advice after they had told me their plan, and I broke the rule again. They had figured it out. That's the way they wanted to do it. Sounded complicated to me, but guess what? They didn't ask me. But what did I do? I jumped in and said, well, here's the way you ought to do it, because this would be a lot easier and save you time. To which she kind of looked at me, and I realized I had broken the unsolicited advice.
Well, a fellow was telling me yesterday that he was going to be getting a car, and was telling me what he was going to be looking at. And the first thing that popped out of my mind was a statement about that car. And about 3/4 of the way through my statement about that car, I caught myself. And I said, boy, you really ought to get exactly what you want. And the tail end of what I was saying.
Gary, what gets me, here you are, you're the teacher.
Yeah.
You're the guy that's trying to get me and all of our friends to follow this. And even you have to battle against that unsolicited advice.
I caught myself about 3/4 of the way through the sentence, getting ready to stick my nose into something I had no business sticking my nose in, because I wasn't asked about it. It was a comment that was made to me, but no, I was going to give my advice on it. But I caught myself just in time.
Okay, back to the question about telling the truth. You had a little book in here about the 3 great questions, and one, what is reality?
Right.
What is the truth? So does that play a part into it? Because if someone comes in and says, hey, I got my hair done, what do you think? Honestly, isn't that just going to be my opinion? That may not necessarily be the truth, because 1,000 other people could love it. They could like it. Maybe I'm just behind the times and I've got poor taste.
But why would you ever say to that person, I don't like it? Why would you ever hurt that person's feelings that way?
That's a good question. It's not helping anyone, isn't it?
You're doing nothing but causing harm. Now, you may not be being totally honest when you say, I don't like it. But in the same sense, you're not causing any harm by saying, it's nice.
Listen, how creative.
You could skirt around it and say, it's unique.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different.
And you seem to really like it.
Or you could say, it's you.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways.
There's a number of different ways you can handle it. But
that you could answer it and keep from getting punched in the nose, I guess.
But in the same sense, I just, when you talk about truth, it's just so interesting. I've thought about it all week, is how do you deal with truth?
Well, the truth is the perception of each person, because there was a concert coming, and I was with two people, and one said, "Oh, my goodness, I'd do anything in the world to see this person." The other person said, "I wouldn't walk across the street to see that person." So I'm thinking about what you teach on this program, and I'm sitting here saying, which one of these individuals is right?
Well, that's not, I don't think that's truthers.
They're both right, aren't they?
Yeah. In other words, is it black or is it white or is it gray? The fact.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a can of Coke or is it not a can of Coke? Or is it a can of Pepsi? Is this a fact or is it not a fact? What is the truth is the question I've got. Generally, when you're talking to a politician, that's relevant to which politician you're listening to.
Isn't it, though?
It's very relevant.
Yeah. It's questions we're asking ourselves these days.
And perception is whatever. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When you're perception, to a great extent, you will find truth in your perception of what you perceive it to be going in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want the truth to be is generally what it will be.
Back to the story of...
Give you an example of what I'm talking about. When they tried the Kennedy boy for rape years ago, a little old lady was on the jury. And they interviewed her afterwards. And they asked her about it. And she said, when I first saw that young man, I just knew he could never rape anyone. And I'm so glad that's what the evidence showed. Well, there was no way the evidence was ever going to show her anything else.
The evidence, no matter what the evidence, was going to prove her perception right.
Right.
And she would be validated because she would say, I told you so.
The truth was going to be revealed to her through the evidence.
Now, the opposite would have worked also, right?
Right.
Had she walked in and said, I know that guy's going to be guilty.
By looking at him. And
thank heavens the evidence presented that I was right.
Showed that.
Wow.
So this week, my friends, I want you to think about truth. I want you to ponder it. And like I say, I'd love to be able to just sit with you right now, one-on-one, and discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
What is truth?
I had a conversation.
How do you arrive at truth? How do you ever really figure out what truth is?
Gary, I had a conversation with an individual that was talking about a third party that said, I know that person is obnoxious and they're not a very good person. I said, well, you must have had a bad experience with them. And they said, no, I've never met them. I said, you've never met them? And they said, no. But they already knew just what you said about the lady, that this individual was obnoxious and not a very good person, but they had never met them or encountered them.
And I guess you could move it to another level, because judging people without the information, making a judgment based upon a perception without having the facts or the truth about it. We do it all the time. We make assumptions. And remember, one of the rules is never assume anything. But yet we do it all the time.
Well, let me tell you a simple one, okay? I've never eaten mayonnaise. You know why?
Because you know it's bad.
I don't like it. And everybody says, how do you know that you don't like it? You've never eaten it. I just know I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Now, probably if I tried it, I'd probably like it. But I have this preconceived notion that I don't want mayonnaise on my sandwich because I don't like it. we do that from the smallest things to the biggest things,
Right.
don't we?
We make assumptions.
We make assumptions. And those assumptions become reality to us.
And that's why one of the rules is never assume anything.
But doesn't that go against our little human nature?
Well, being unique makes us complicated.
You know, I thought about what you said about the unique part the other day. And, you know, it used to be really special to be twins. And I thought, oh, my goodness, here's someone that looks like someone. And Gary was pointing out on the show, you know, if you don't have a twin, nobody else on the earth looks like you. And then I thought, even if you do have a twin, your fingerprints are different, and you're still different.
And as they get older, they look less and less alike.
And there's no such thing as an identical, because you'll have different fingerprints.
No, they're not even close when you get right down to it. It's amazing how easy it is to tell them apart.
That's the amazing thing about this miracle that we are walking the planet.
There are far more galaxies. I'm not talking stars. Now, there's like billions of stars in our galaxy, okay? There are more galaxies in the universe than there are people on Earth. Think about that.
You're making us feel pretty small.
But pretty important, too.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty unique.
Yeah.
But not as big as we think.
Right. So when you think about how unique you are to be part of that and one of a kind, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
And the little bitty dash we have with the time.
Oh.
Occasionally you can tell a fib and it's okay.
As
long as the fib doesn't hurt anybody.
You speak of the time, and you know the last couple of programs we've done, you've talked about the dash, and you've talked about what if this were your last day on Earth, and you've talked about how would you treat people, how would you want to be kind to people, and you know over the weekend we heard the horrible news of the great NBA player Kobe Bryant, a young man, 41 years old, who lost his life with 8 other people, including his daughter. And I just sat down when I heard that news, and everything that you had said on the past 2 or 3 programs just came rushing back to me about how precious every minute, not every day, every minute of life is, and how blessed we are to have it.
And probably they were trying to get to a basketball game that they thought was so important that they had to get there when it wasn't that important at all. And they should never have been flying in that weather. And that's the point, one of the points I want to make on this program, folks. Don't ever risk anything, because your life and your safety is more important than anything. As long as you have today and tomorrow, a good promise of tomorrow, that's all that matters. There's nothing that important.
Gary, I saw it this morning on the commute on the way in. 2 vehicles going way above the speed limit, cutting in and out of traffic, only to get caught by a red light, then to do the same thing. And I'm sitting back there going, I wonder what is so pressing and so important that you would disobey the rules in the way that you're driving and put yourself at risk, but other people at risk around you.
Well, I was driving to Lexington the other day, and there's a young man in a little old truck come flying around me, and he's probably doing 100 miles an hour. And there wasn't a doubt in my mind that he was probably late for work. And it was an older truck, and he was risking his life and the lives of others because he was probably late for work, and he figured he better get to work. without no thought that he could easily kill himself or somebody else. So, folks, if you're in that position, if you're late for work, even if you lose your job, it's okay. You'll at least be alive tomorrow.
You can go find another one, and you may learn a lesson to where you set the alarm clock 30 minutes early so that you don't have to worry about it.
Right. And to the extent you can, tell the truth.
Even, and you've pointed this out before, the truth can be this simple. I don't know. I'm not sure. You don't have to be definitive, do you?
One of the things I always tell my clients when they get ready to go to a deposition is, just because you're asked a question does not mean you have to have an answer. If you don't know something, be honest and say, I don't know, or I don't remember. There's nothing wrong with the words, I don't remember.
Let me tell you how simple this is. I'm with 3 of my buddies the other day, and we're watching one of the ball games, and we start talking about an event that we were all at. My one friend said, it was this date, it was this time. I said, you're absolutely wrong. You've even got the wrong year. My other friend said, no, you're wrong. And the fourth guy said, you're all wrong. And all of us would have sworn, we would have laid our hand on the Bible and sworn we were right. And after we all talked about it, every one of us had it wrong. We had something about the details wrong, all of us. Different times, different dates, different events. Now, there wasn't any pressure put on us. Our lives were not on the line, worried about medical bills. We're just sitting having a casual conversation, and the 4 of us got everything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't mean to lie, no intent of being wrong, and would have sworn that we were all right. That's pretty scary.
But each of you felt like you had to say something because you were asked the question.
Well, we wanted to show that I could remember better than he could, and,
Right.
I had all my faculties.
And none of you were honest enough to say, I really don't remember.
It sounds familiar, but I don't know all the details.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been the answer, but you had to step up and take ownership. I guess it was a pride factor.
Yeah.
Right.
And we do it all the time.
Sure.
It's human nature. It's the frailties of being human.
And, it struck me so funny at that point in time. I thought, think about the pressure of being in a courthouse and you're trying to remember a record or a medical record or something like that, and this is so vitally important to you. And here we were in casual conversation, and we still got everything wrong.
Okay, it's one other thing I want to share with my good friends out there. And it's how important the time you have in your dash. As you're going through this life, my unique friends, remember how precious that dash is and how precious your time is. And I'm going to tell you what Ben Franklin had to say about your time. This is his quote. Do you love life? Then do not squander time, for that's the stuff life is made of.
Wow.
That's all. Think about that. That's all you have is time. Period. You have nothing else.
And you're doing a barter with this time for money, for friendship, for love, for enjoyment. Your barter is giving your time to learn to do all of these things, right? That's your value.
And if you sell your time, say for an hour, to someone for money, then live up to the obligation and sell it to them. And give them that hour.
And Gary, that's the biggest reason you always thank our friends, whether it's on the radio program or the television program. You tell me time and time again, Keith, do you know what the value is of the people giving us 30 minutes of their time to listen on the radio or to watch the television program? They gave 30 minutes of their time to do that.
Folks, I can only hope, that because you share your time with us, that you can get something out of this that's of some benefit to you. I hope you think. I hope you understand and can think with me a little bit about truth.
Mm-hmm.
That you understand how perception may very well be reality for all of us, how we perceive things. That you understand that each and every person around you is unique and that they are different than you, just like you're different than they are. That they are as different inside, just like you're as different inside as they are. Like I say, the greatest revelation I believe I've had is how different we are inside as we are outside. And therefore you will stop judging when you realize that.
And the other thing that I think you've done for me more than anything is when I come to you and I say, I failed, I broke the rule of criticizing, I did this, I did that, and you keep telling me, Keith, what do you expect? You're human.
That's right.
You're going to do that, but you try better the next time. You try better the next time. You start over day after day.
Remember, we come on this earth with all the frailties of being human. We would like to be more, but we will never be more than a human being. But that's okay, because being a human being is mighty fine.
Well, you said it best. In simple language, you said, it's okay to be you.
That's right.
So to all of our friends that are listening right now, listen to those words. It's okay to be you. In fact, it's quite cool to be you because you're one of a kind.
And remember, please learn to love you. Yeah. Once you learn to love you, you will have no trouble learning to love others. But you have to learn to love you first.
Well spoken, my friend. You can catch Gary's television program Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock on your CBS affiliate, WYMT. A late-night replay is on your CBS affiliate in Central Kentucky, WKYT. Should you need to get in touch with Gary, GaryCJohnson.com, or you can go to JudoLaw.com. And Gary talks a lot about judo law. I think we've moved that over to judo life. We probably need to do a program just on that, about how judo law is really judo life. But you can go to judolaw.com. My friend, good lesson today. You gave us a lot to think about.
The truth.
The truth. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt, and here's the truth. We really do appreciate you tuning in. Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.